promotion tournament. And they also made sure that they didn't get a bad matchup this time in the bot lane. So bot lane went even, slightly pushing in towards the end of that laning phase, and then the two other solo laners were able to get massively ahead with Lyra snowballing them.
Right, and overall, Envy wound up ending that game with a 21.7k gold differential at the end of the game. So pretty much, early game went Envy's way. Envy did Envy things. More importantly, they looked a lot more proactive in the way that they were playing that mid game. They did potentially have a couple of question marks of are they going to stall out against E United. They had a 10,000 gold lead at 20 minutes, but they were able to balloon that off of the fact that they started controlling objectives, specifically the dragons in this game, and off of the back of a couple of good catches out when Gold Coin United's vision was low, secured a Baron, and then secured the win.
I mean, anyone will tell you that shot calling from ahead is 10 times easier in League of Legends. And to be fair to Envy, they often do actually play out the early and mid games pretty well from behind. We saw in game one, despite being down 3,000 gold early on, clawed their way back into the game. But they struggle from playing from ahead, even into the late game. But this time around, having such a massive lead, even though they got picked off once in the side lane, they were still able to eventually turn them into a Baron because it's just so much damage available to them. Anyone gets close to face checking, they blow them up, and that's kind of how they ended that game.
Yeah, on Gold Coin United side, you can see here, looking a little bit distraught after that Game 2 loss because for basically the first time the entire tournament, we saw pretty much every single lane matchup behind in the early game. Every single lane wound up losing out. Even Phoenix against Ninja. I mean, Phoenix was a little bit ahead of Ninja, but in that case, it's losing when it comes to Phoenix.
Right. I think when you look at big picture, game one, game two, it looks like what you would expect. But if you look at how the mid lane has gone both times around, it hasn't been super Phoenix favored quite the way that we were building it up coming into this series. And you got to give Ninja some props. He got his Talon in game one. It's obviously a signature champion, and there was a lot of scrapping that happened around that mid lane early on. Both of them died a decent amount, actually, which is fine for Envy, you would think, as long as Ninja's trading for the most part. But game two, he gets a Syndra pick and actually wins that lane, survives through Phoenix's all-in attempts, and then with the help of Lyra, starts turning that around and come mid-late game. He's still a Syndra. He's able to do a lot of damage.
Yeah, and off the back of a snowballing Renekton matchup from Seraph in the top side of the map, Lyra playing a lot better on the Kha'Zix in that game. Envy was just able to, as you said, take all their advantages across the map, culminate them together into a game-ending push with the Baron buff, and now it's going to be on GCU. How do they wind up adapting? Because the pick and ban phase, we said it was very good for Envy in that time. They left the Camille open. It looked like that was what GCU was going to have to take away as one of their first picks on the red side. Seraph just had the Renekton available to him because it wasn't banned away in the second ban phase this time. We picked it in the first pick phase. So it looked like Envy had a little bit better of the deal when they were on blue side.
And you talk about the fact that Gold Coin United also did not seem to draft to their exact strengths. We saw Solo on that Camille pick, maybe more of a takeaway. I'm sure he plays the champion, but is he truly prepared to try and snowball with it the way that we see Seraph able to do in yesterday's series? Didn't quite look that way. So we'll have to see what happens with that Camille pick. If it ends up getting banned away, do they drop the Elise ban for it now? We'll have to see.
It's also difficult to snowball on the Camille when your top side of the map gives away first blood, so instead it's going to be a ban on the Camille coming out from Gold Coin United. Malzahar and Ziggs are the other two from their side. Ash and Vladimir, things that Team Envy have been banning away quite frequently, and now we'll see, is it going to be the Rumble ban to answer the Camille ban, or is it going to be something completely different here?
The interesting thing, of course, is also the Elise might be the first time Envy has their chance to grab it throughout this entire tournament. It's almost been perma-ban status here, so I'm sure Envy weighing their options now. Elect to miss the ban. I wonder, we'll see. Try and hear it from production if there was a intentional or something, but for now, that leaves a lot of stuff open on the table. The Graves pick is still there, the Elise pick is up now, the Rumble pick is still available, and then you also have the Varus and things like that. So GCU, with the Rumble left open, decided to snatch that one up right away.
So that's going to be a Rumble that can do very well into multiple tank matchups, and I was informed that they just ran out of time for that ban. So you mentioned all the options you get first pick right there. It's no surprise that they were hesitant to try to figure out what they exactly wanted to ban away. Instead, Gold Coin United, you mentioned, picking up the Rumble. And now what is the response from Memphis? So a lot of things open. Varus has been left completely open. They've been picking that one first almost every single time. They could follow up with the Renekton, which, I mean, they're hovering over right now, but it doesn't have to be their final pick here. They've been going with the Zyra. They've been going with a strong jungle pickup. The Elise, like you said, has been left open. Graves is still available. They could take something extremely strong for Lyra in this first rotation. So many things open. They wind up picking the Renekton here for Seraph. Won him game number 2. Might as well try to go back to it.
For the most part, Seraph has had good Renekton performances over the course of this tournament. Sometimes it hasn't been enough to actually win the game. depending on what he's up against. We saw in one of the times he was against the Nautilus. Nautilus survived the early pressure. Sure, he died a couple times, but then he's able to still do his job in team fights. This time around, going up against, once again, that carry pick in the Rumble. The snowball potential becomes a lot higher here for the Renekton. Goldcoin United snap picked their bot lane from game 1, which gave Team Envy's bot lane, which is also the same from game 1, so much trouble.
So Envy responding in kind with the Zyra pickup, and Goldcoin United not wanting to have Mash's AD carry pool limited in the second phase of bans. Instead, it's going to be a lot of mid lane bans going through here. The Elise does actually want to getting banned through from Goldcoin United, but a Jace and a Talon ban from Envy's side.
So this is actually one of the things I love about best of fives and learning where your priorities are. You might think Team Envy has a super high priority on that Elise and you've been banning it away and you think they're going to take it as soon as it's available. But then you learn that they prioritize making sure that their bot lane gets through there. If they didn't grab those exact 3 champions, one of those is going to get banned in the second ban phase, and they choose to say that all 3 of those are more important in this game than that Elise pick. So you know that they highly prioritize the Renekton pick now. You know that the Varus is obviously super highly prioritized, but then the Zyra priority being higher than the Elise priority is something that you have to take into account now.
They are going to leave open the Lee Sin here for Lyra. Banned away the previous 2 matches on top of that Elise pick. Elise goes into the bans, Lee Sin goes through. This will be the first time we see Lyra on it in this best of 5 series. More early game focused jungler, but that's where Lyra thrives. That's where he gets all the advantages for Team Envy. He's going to be matching up against the Graves coming out here once again for Santorin. So we'll see a 3rd game of him on that champion. And potentially a Syndra pick away here for Phoenix in the mid lane. What is Envy going to respond with? They banned away 2 of their own mid laners.
Right, you're a little surprised at that one.
The Ahri is still available. Oh, Ahri's banned out by Goldcoin United, so that's not even available. Could have Orianna, although the Syndra normally gets the best of that matchup in lane, and we have seen Ninja be a little bit over-aggressive with his Orianna, not necessarily knowing the limitations, the damage from that one. Vladimir had been banned out by his own team, so it will be the Orianna response against the Syndra, but this is a lane matchup that will be Phoenix favored.
Definitely, and this is one of the times that I think you can say it's not even close to a skill matchup. This is generally Syndra favorable. Orianna, if you're really good at it, can kind of go even at best for the most part. And this looks like a decent team comp for Goldcoin United. They secure that bot lane that was super successful in game 1. The Graves pick for the 3rd time in a row here for Santorin. Hopefully we see a bounce back performance. And then Rumble this time around, not into the Camille, into the Renekton. A little bit more difficult of a lane matchup early on, but the Rumble pick will start outscaling it super hard, and the split push threat come mid-late game is not nearly as high.
And this Rumble pickup for Solo, looking to get himself a little bit of a comeback game after going against the Camille previously. This time around, though, it is going to be a Renekton matchup. You mentioned very strong early on. Bottom side of the map will be where I really want to focus from this side of the map between Goldcoin United and Team Envy. Goldcoin United got the best of them with this lane in game number 1, but Team Envy's bottom lane, unsung heroes of their matchup previously against United, and very strong in game number 2 to help them come out ahead in that one.
You got to look at that last ban that they missed. You were trying to think that, well, what can you throw there? What's something that we know we want to like get rid of? Why not get rid of the Caitlyn or the Karma or something? It's obviously, it felt like they were wrestling between, well, do we ban Rumble and then we give up this matchup, and we'd prefer to take the Renekton into Rumble so we can force their first pick with Rumble and we get the counter pick. You're weighing all these different options, and it's a little surprising to not see them just snap pick something that you know the enemy team prioritizes that you don't have to think about at all if you can't come up with a ban there. So the Caitlyn would be an example, the Karma would be a potential example, and it's a little surprising to see them let that opportunity slip away there. We'll see if that mistake in the draft comes back to bite Envy in the butt.
Well, Envy wound up dropping to Goldcoin United on Friday, 3-1. As Freak pointed out in the analyst desk, we're tied up 1-1, so that means we're here in game number 3. Envy are looking to try to jump out to a 2-1 lead here, but so are Goldcoin United. And Goldcoin United's composition, very similar to what they had in game number 1. The only real difference is the mid lane matchup here with that Syndra for Phoenix against the Orianna for Ninja.
Right, and I liked Goldcoin's level 1 plan in the first game when they were on blue side. I bet Envy are wise to it this time around, though. And Lyra, like we said, also on the Lee Sin this time. So a lot stronger of an early game champion in terms of his dueling threat.
Potentially not going to be as aggressive from Santorin. He had that nice red buff invade early on in game number 1. Looks like, though, that they are going to wind up hugging the mid lane here. He might be going for something very similar There's a ward in the river, though. Does NBC, if they pop out from this side, they hug that wall, I still think Envy's just barely going to notice that they're there. And they are starting on the top side. They actually do not. So Gold Coin United are able to sneak through a hole in the vision, put a ward back over the wall, and they are going to steal away the Raptor camp again. Lyra had been starting on this red side here. So they are going to try to collapse Santorin, about half HP from doing this Raptor camp. Ninja put a ward over the wall too, so they see this one. Lyra comes around the opposite side. Ooh, a fail flash from Santorin's going to seal the deal on his death. First blood goes over to Lyra.
Disastrous level 1 there for Gold Coin United. You thought it might work out in their favor given the fact that they snuck past the vision on the slightly misplaced trinket board there. That's one of the things that is sometimes not given enough attention to is exactly where you place your trinkets if you're trying to snipe out that vision. There you see the fact that they went for the pixel brush ward as opposed to securing the complete vision on the actual ramp. A little bit of a mistake, but Gold Coin United throw their trinket ward over onto the red buff of Envy, alerting Envy to the fact that somehow they snuck past us at least, and then they know to wrap around instead. Lyra jumps onto him and they're in a 3v2 situation. No help here because obviously Phoenix does not want to be super out of position at the start of level 1. Not able to get involved in that fight. Not a great start for Santorin when we talk about how important it is that he doesn't need to beat Lyra necessarily in the early game, but he needs to hang close to even with him. And Lyra gets the first blood and a much faster start on his jungle now.
And not to mention he's on a much faster and more early game centric jungler in the Lee Sin pickup. We've seen Lyra get up close and personal against his opposing jungler, specifically Gilius in the match against United yesterday. Was not afraid to mess with him when he went for his second buff attempt. Santorin, though, has gone down to his bottom side of the map and has cleared out that red buff area, and while Lyra is matching on his own bottom side of the map, will not be able to contest if Santorin goes back up to the top side and focus down on his blue buff. So we may not see as much contesting around the bus as normal, but Lyra, a large amount of gold in his pocket, will end up going back and buying an early mobility boost extremely quick on this Lee Sin pickup. That just screams that he wants to be all over the map.
Right, it was a good decision there by Santorin to move into his bottom quadrant of the jungle to look for farm. If Lyra secures his red buff and moves up for a blue side steal, there's really not much you can do as the Graves pick in that situation. Trying to fight him as a level 1 Graves versus what could be a level 3 Lyra. So he goes on to clear his bot side. Lyra does not go for an aggressive invade. He instead focuses on finishing out his first clear. And like you said, going back and getting those early Moby boots. Runs up into the top lane, camping the brush now with Seraph. Making sure he's safe as he escorts that wave in, and now he's going to show him that ward.
Yep, so Seraph and Lyra, two-man wrecking crew, moving down towards the blue buff side of Santorin, and he is just finishing that one up. Lyra's Sonic Wave will not wind up stealing away a blue buff. So Santorin escapes with his life, but Lyra and Seraph still kind of on the hunt in the backside, putting some wards down, keeping track of where Santorin's going to be in this jungle because, as we mentioned before, this jungle matchup, specifically here for Gold Coin United versus Envy, going to be very, very crucial as to who's getting out ahead. And so far, Lyra's getting the upper hand. Or foot.
Upper something, upper foot. A little bit of a surprising lack of ability to convert that advantage into something more tangible, though, on the side of Lyra. Camping the brush is, you know, I'm not sure why he thought that was necessary, considering Santorin was behind in that clear. Maybe he thought Santorin was just going to do like a red clear and move up right away as opposed to doing a full bot side clear. But that's one of the tricky things about jungling and why people who have game sense as junglers is so important, is because you don't always know exactly what the enemy jungler is going to do. And now Lyra, with those Moby boots, after being spawned on the top side, works his way down to the bot side extremely quickly, and Hakuho tries to kick things off.
The flash root from Hakuho is not going to land. Sonic Wave, a resonating strike connects on the mash. The exhaust comes out there from Mad Life, so forcing a summoner spell out. They're not going to want to get a kill, but they do want to burn in some suns.
Right, they get everything aside for the heal out of Mash Me. Overall, a great gank attempt there by Lyra, grabbing up that summoner advantage and maybe limiting what the enemy bot lane can do. This was something that we saw Envy have happen to them in one of their games yesterday, where they have the aggressive pushing lane of the Zyra Varus, but they got ganked extremely early on, and they could no longer play as aggressive as they wanted to. This time around, we saw how powerful the pushing power was on the side of GCU in game 1. As Lyra
taking a ton of damage, has to burn the heal. One more Dark Sphere, not going to wind up picking up a kill. Phoenix low on mana, can't run the chase through. Lyra has shown up, as is Santorin. Looks like they both just want to heal it, holding these waves to their mid laners.
Both junglers going to try to secure this wave, push it in for the other one. And good early game for Phoenix so far this time around. Up a lot of CS over Ninja.
51 compared to 38, but Ninja underneath his own tower is going to stick around for a little while and CS those up. But going back to that bot lane advantage, you mentioned the fact that Envy had that pressure turned against them in their series against United. It was specifically the Lee Sin from the opposing side that was shutting them down. So now that in the hands of Lyra, we'll see if he's able to do the same thing. But Seraph on the top side, with the equalizer from Solo early on for the wave clear potential, but Santorin winds up coming up here, does force the Dominus out. Seraph had flashed a little bit earlier, but they get the Summoner spell out there, and they get trade down onto the top side.
Good gank there by Santorin, helping protect his Rumble, who's, for the most part, actually doing extremely well in this lane matchup. Almost up 15 CS against the counter pick in the Renekton. Things looking much better around this time for Solo, who, you know, we were being a little critical of the fact that he was being given these carry champions, not like he doesn't have the ability to carry, but just wasn't the best option for the team. This time around, looking like it might have been the right choice.
Solo overall throughout the promotion tournament has definitely stepped up a bit. He's always been known as a bit of an emotional player, and when he winds up falling behind, sometimes those emotions can really get to him, and he starts to make poor choices based off of that. However, for Goldcoin, yeah, they did win the series yesterday. He wasn't necessarily a catalyst for their issues. As a matter of fact, he was a catalyst for the success coming back from behind against Team Liquid and helping force that series go to a full 5 games. This time around, as you mentioned, they're not sticking him on tanks, they're sticking him on carry champions, and that, of course, only exacerbates that issue if he does wind up falling behind. But so far, he's done a pretty decent job going toe-to-toe against Seraph. There was the Camille versus Rumble matchup where he was behind for pretty much the entire game, but his team wound up winning. But now, it's been a little bit left out to dry as Seraph and Lyra have made their way around, get the kick back onto the Rumble and take down Solo.
The commentator's curse, just as we're saying he's doing a better job stabilizing this matchup.
My bad.
Meanwhile, Ninja in the mid lane, he's going to get opened up on. It's going to be a trade kill, though. Nice ultimate pulls Phoenix back under the turret. Not able to live with the heal. Still goes down there in a nice 1-for-1. That's still not bad for Ninja, the fact that he's able to get that kill. It's also fine for Phoenix, a champion who definitely wants to be picking up some kills on that Syndra, trying to snowball. Solo has to teleport back up in the top side, equalizing out that teleport advantage. Now both junglers going to pop up into each other.
Santorin finds Lyra in his own jungle. Lyra has to try to flash over the wall. It's going to be a smite to heal himself back up on the blue buff. Santorin gets the Inspire shield, but Hakuo is shown back up. A couple of roots going to dissuade Santorin from that one, but that's the slight advantage that Santorin has going for a couple of long swords rather than stopping from the Moby boots like Lyra has.
This is a great gank for Lyra to go for. He's able to avoid a lot of the vision that you see available on the top side for GCU. Nice Warthog kick into the wall. The flash was still down on the side of Solo. And during that time, Phoenix, knowing where Lyra is now, wants to get really aggressive onto Ninja. Flashes forward to secure the ultimate, but it puts him in range to get pulled in the turret. The heal not enough to keep him alive. And the reason that gank is so important for Lyra to pull off there is that it forces that teleport out of Solo. And you're in the position now where you're worried about the bot lane potentially pushing in and forcing a dive, or because they're playing really aggressive now with that summoner advantage, a teleport coming in from behind. This just buys a lot of space for your bot lane, which is crushing this game, to keep their pressure up.
It's also a really good answer for the gank beforehand. Seraph had already used his teleport to get back to lane after buying a Hex Drink, but then had to recall and walk all the way back to lane. So the gank following up after the walk back to lane forces Solo, like you said, to utilize that global. And, you know, he's not going to be here to teleport into this potential gank on the bottom side of Santorin. Routes on the other side, but Lyra is here to answer that one. Flash away from Santorin as the Stranglethorns comes out from Hakuo. The heal winds up getting used there by Match to give him a little bit of a speed boost, a little bit of extra health. GCU's gank gets turned around.
You see Lyra with that counter gank that he's so well known for, turning the aggression back around onto Santorin. And this is a scary thing, is when your bot lane's getting pressured super hard, you feel like you need to go down there and gank it, but you're weaker in that 3v3. So Lyra able to turn that one around. Now keeps the pressure up onto Santorin, just misses the Q follow-up onto Santorin. Would have been a little risky to go for, given the fact that Mad Life was still in range, might have gotten a shield on top of him, and then you risk getting turned around on.
So Lyra, small victories, smites away the big Gromp, or the big Krug, gets that for himself. Ninja in the meantime getting aggressive underneath the tower to Phoenix. He's tanking that one up. Command Shockwave gets used for that one, even though Lyra is here. He cannot dive through onto that Ninja. A little bit too low from tanking 2 tower shots, but Seraph's wrapping around from the top side.
Yeah, still a little pressured here by Phoenix, trying to clear out the minion wave. Does manage to do so, but Seraph's still on the backside.
Yep, uses the unleashed power onto Seraph. It's full HP Renekton will not go down. Meanwhile, bottom side, Hakuo and Apollo utilizing that pushing pressure, take down Mad Life. More kills for Envy. Another great early game.
Another great early game here for Envy. Ninja's ultimate did not pull Phoenix forward, which is, I think, what he was going for with that shockwave, but they're still fine to kill on him because Seraph had roamed down from that top lane. We'll take another look at what happened in the bot lane here. Looks like it's going to be a fight started off by Hakuho. Lands another root onto Mad Life. He walks up aggressively trying to get the tether off, but gets chunked extremely low.
An immediate flash ignite response from Hakuho to turn on the Mad Life. They understand the damage of their bottom lane combination extremely well. You'd expect it considering they've played it pretty much every game except for one so far in the promotion tournament. You got to kind of question this. When do you start putting priority on the Varus and the Zyra? You have 22 CS advantage now for Apollo over MASH, and this is the matchup that you were winning in game number 1 that you just haven't, just because of one little assistance from Lyra.
See, Ninja caught a little bit out of position there. Stun misses. Santorin goes over the wall. No ult or flash available. Santorin cleans up that kill.
Quick collateral damage, quick response from GCU in the mid lane. Ninja pushing up a little bit too far. 3-man take him down. 3v1, not fair.
Not fair at all, but Phoenix was the recipient of a 3-man gank prior. He wants a little bit of attention for himself this time around. Is at 1-2-1 now. A little bit of a CS lead, but things not looking great for GCU. Down around 2,000 gold, 12 minutes in. And like you said, the fact that Lyra was able to get down there and turn that play around the bot lane was extremely important for how this game shaped out. It just bought Lyra so much extra room to run with. Considering he does not have to worry about potentially protecting his bot lane at all. And then all those ganks that he forced later, that counter gank onto Santorin, is much easier to win because you're ahead now. And I think a lot of it also comes down to the fact that, you know, Santorin died level 1, so Lyra had so many more options available to him in that early game.
Yep, well, all this has culminated into Apollo already getting a Blade of the Rune King. It's about 12 minutes into the game. Meanwhile, Hakuho has gone for his own pair of boots of mobility to match his jungler Lyra on the map. Mid lane matchup. Negatron Cloak picked up for the Orianna to survive a little bit against the Syndra. Going for Merc Treads on top of that, where Syndra has gone for those Sorcerer's Shoes for a little bit of extra magic penetration. Mash's Caitlyn's only picked up the BF Sword to his name and upgraded for those Berserker's Greaves, so a little bit of extra attack speed. But the bottom side of the map still heavily in Envy's favor. 122 CS compared to 90. Lyra waiting in the wings of this brush here. Chain of Crusher actually lands on the Mad Light. The follow-up roots are there. Didn't even need Lyra. Kill goes over to Hakuho.
Santorin just a little too slow getting involved in this play. Shows up in time to protect the turret, but not fast enough to stop that kill coming in onto Mad Life. Would have been hard to stop anyways, given the fact that it was just all long-range damage coming in from Apollo and Hakuho. That chain CC combo can be brutal.
Now Santorin's forced to give some attention to the bottom side of the map, helping clear out some waves with MASH as he is in a position to get towered over, but Lyra is making his way towards the mid lane here. Finds Phoenix, though. Face checks him, and Phoenix able to just delete him with some unleashed power.
Lyra getting a little bit too aggressive there, thinking that he's safe to run around the map, knowing that Santorin was stuck in the bot lane protecting that turret. Phoenix also aware of the fact that Lyra was looking for advantages, picks him off in the jungle there. A little over-aggressive on the side of the Lyra, but Envy's still in a decent spot sitting at that 2,000 gold lead.
Well, yeah, that aggression has gotten him the 2,000 gold lead, so Lyra oversteps his bounds ever so slightly. Winds up paying the price for it. More importantly, double buff now on Phoenix, so Ninja's going to have a bad time to see him taking a couple Dark Spheres and Force of Wills to the face. Slight level advantage as well, level 11 compared to the level 10 of Ninja, but he will most likely wind up hitting on himself after clearing out this minion wave. But now, the onus is on GCU. Game number 2, Envy had about a 2,000 gold lead going into like the 10 or so minute mark. It ballooned at the 20-minute mark to 10,000 gold lead. You have to stem the bleeding at this point to try to hang on and have your superior late game, but your bottom lane getting summoners blown and health bars knocked down. Not the way to go about it. The ace in the hole gets channeled though, and Hakuho is forced to tank that one up for Apollo. Both 80 carries in the bottom lane dropping low.
All right, but with that all in, Apollo and Envy might have bought enough pressure down in this lane to try and grab the first turret of the game. That bonus gold still available, and also with that pressure, Lyra going to be working on the Mountain Dragon. The winning bot lane, like we said, the backbone a little bit of Envy. Sure, Lyra is the catalyst that blows these games wide open, but it feels so much harder for them to make that stuff happen when their bot lane is losing. This time around, they grab the first turret, and they grab the Mountain Dragon, ballooning up to a 3,000 gold lead now.
Yep, so first dragon of the game going to Envy. The objective control on their side with the first tower of the game. So GCU is going to respond on the top side of the map where no one else from Envy is except for Seraph. Equalizer gets dropped. Seraph has to try to dodge through that one, but solo winds up getting a kill with some help from his friend Santorin.
They have a little bit of time now to try and hit this turret down. It is relatively healthy. The bot lane of Envy is rotating up here. The minions are low. They probably will not be able to grab this turret. And unfortunately, GCU still left without any objectives taken on their side. And got to feel a little bit bad for Solo this time around. He's on the Rumble for the second time. This time, once again in the counter pick against Renekton, but he's doing much, much better, actually winning the lane for the most part on his own. Did a great job farming and not dying to any of the attempts by Envy, aside from that one gank attempt on the top side after he got himself a teleport advantage. And the rest of his team just not being able to keep up this time around.
A wise man once told me you can win lane, but that doesn't mean you always win the game. Gold Coin United have to kind of hang on through this mid-game era of Envy. If they don't balloon a lead to the point where they did in game number 2, it could bode well for Gold Coin United. We've already said their strengths lie in their later game decision-making and their team fighting prowess. Although Envy, though, with their bottom lane on the top side, wailing away on this top side tower. Solo wound up having to go back and finishing his Meandry Torment. Envy's Haku and Apollo get themselves the second tower of the game for their team. Now 29,500 compared to 28 or 25.8k gold in Envy's favor.
Would have been hard for Solo to hold on to that turret. He had used his Rumble ultimate aggressively there to get that kill onto Seraph. The Equalizer being one of the best tools for holding on to turrets in 2v1 situations, but not an option there, so he instead backs off and cashes in on that gold. GCU not able to trade down around the bot side at that same time, and you know, we talk about GCU's comp probably being a little bit better come the mid-late game. They have the better scaling top and jungle, a little bit worse scaling mid, and then the bot lane's relatively even, but they're getting into that point where Envy is starting to accrue a big enough of an advantage that you can no longer confidently say, okay, GCU is within the threshold of like being stable come the mid game. It's getting a little too big of a lead here for Envy.
And Gold Coin United definitely have a little bit of a deficit on their bottom lane duo as well. The fact that Mad Life hasn't been able to dribble Santorin for some aggressive ward clearing or ward placement on Envy's side of the map to kind of figure out where Lyra and the rest of the team are going to be sending their lane assignments and roaming around. The fact that they have a Caitlyn pick up in that bottom lane too, who got behind the laning phase. You normally don't see the Varus lane being the one to come out ahead by taking the outer towers first, and Caitlyn does have that sort of mid-game lull and plateau where Mash is still sitting on components for his first couple of items, whereas already Apollo has finished his Blade of the Rune game extremely early, has gotten the Zeal, goes back and immediately turns it into a Runon's Hurricane. So 2 completed items compared to pieces of 2 items.
It is one of those matchups in the bot lane where Caitlyn and Karma, not being very ultimate dependent champions, have the advantage for the first 6 or so levels, and they really need to push that advantage as hard as they possibly can during that window, because as soon as this level 6s come in and the ultimates become available, you see the all-in potential of that Zyra Varus lane, and the fact that GCU got that early gank against them limited their ability to play aggressive. And from there, as soon as it became level 6, it was just too hard for them to hold on to that lane. Now they've rotated up to the mid lane, trying to protect their last outer turret, probably the safest place on the map for them. But it's not like they have a champion who wants to be in the side lane in Syndra.
Very true. And Syndra, not the most mobile of champions. No Ghost picked up for Phoenix this game either, as he's taking the heal, trying to stay alive in some of these trades. So he will not have the extra mobility summoner even get him out of some of these long lane assigned situations where he is more susceptible to ganks. Envy, however, see the mid lane rotation from GCU's duo and match it with their Varus and their Zyra lane. Mentioned how ahead this bottom duo already is over their opponents. They've grouped up a Ninja in the mid lane as well. Take down that mid lane tower to about half HP, and Santorin has to wind up using some of his own abilities at the end of the line there to help clear out some of those minions in the mid lane. Lots of damage going down on that tower. Drops to about a quarter HP now in Envy's favor.
Envy slowly grinding out these advantages. Talk about how much of a lead do they need to be relatively secure heading into the late game. 4,000 at 20 minutes feels pretty good to me. I think MB is in a great spot so far this game. Not out of the woods yet. They still need to continue fighting for these advantages. Mountain Drake spawning in a minute will probably be the next focus for them.
That only helps them more, too.
And they got a lot of good zone control as well in their team comp. You're often scared of fighting a Rumble around a Dragon Pit, something like that, but you're also scared of fighting a Orianna Zyra.
Yeah. There's a lot of pick-off potential from the side of Envy, a lot of team fight potential as well. So Team Envy could be set up to get themselves a couple more objectives. A second Mountain Drake also means that the potential for Baron, which is now spawned on the map, is a lot stronger. They're able to take down inner towers a lot more efficiently when they have 20% extra damage onto it. So Mark, you complained to the RNG gods for some better dragons in this game. They're giving them to Envy so far.
Yeah, MB very happy with this potential second Mountain Dragon. Talk about how much better Mountain is from ahead than from behind. if you're able to actually use that 10% bonus damage to neutral objectives, threatening Baron or turrets in a split push situation becomes much more useful. Obviously, if you're the team behind, you still want to grab those Mountain Dragons so the enemy team can't use them, but Mountain Dragon definitely a more snowball-oriented buff.
Well, this bottom lane is now where our top laners make home as Seraph is pushing up against Solo's Rumble, who, as you mentioned, has been pretty much holding his own in this matchup. Slight CS advantage, though it's only about 10 so far at the 20-minute mark. 1-1-0 for Rumble compared to the 1-1-1 of Renekton. See Santorin get into a bit of a scuttle crab duel against the enemy support. Zyra roots it up, but Santorin smites it away. On the flip side of the map, Lyra knows that his opposing jungler is nowhere to be found. Starts out that Mountain Dragon. Meanwhile, Santorin actually drops extremely low compared to a duel between him and Hakuho and Ninja on the opposite side.
Yeah, Ninja almost able to open up Santorin there. Not quite enough damage from the rest of the team. Santorin's able to live, but during that time, Lyra was down there soloing away the Mountain Dragon. He grabs that one. Team Envy continued to grow their lead now.
Yeah, so already a 4,500 gold lead, approaching the 5,000 mark here for Team Envy. Last outer tower on the map is this mid lane one here. Ninja and Lyra trying to push down on that one. A good scatter of the weak stun from the side of Phoenix, though. Forces Ninja back for now. But blue buff Orianna is going to be content to just continue pushing up these waves, clearing out minions, and forcing the issue for Envy as Hakuho and Apollo on the top side of the map in this blue buff area, trying to establish some vision and some map control for Team Envy. Looks like that their focus is very heavily on this mid lane area. They want to try to be able to split it down. They want to be able to open up the map for the side of Goldcoin United. And with the pressure they put on the top side, mid lane does wind up crumbling underneath the pressure from Orianna and Lee Sin.
It's all three outer turrets down now on the side of Team Envy. Pretty much the ideal timing if you're hoping to get those down. It's right about when the Baron starts becoming a bigger threat. And having that mid-outer turret down is one of the best things for helping you get the Baron. You're able to push the minion wave in further. It gives you more space to work with. The enemy team does not have their security as far forward, so you get to have more room to look for those kind of baits.
So the map has been opened up for Envy. Game number 2. They had some really good vision control, especially around the Baron pit area. They had a larger gold lead at this point, though, and that was able to domino affect them into a couple of key pickoffs that let them get a Baron buff and let them eventually push into the base. There's also the split push factor coming out for them in that game with Sarah's Renekton, which is wheeling away on the bottom side. But Goldcoin United showing that they will not go quietly, taking the top lane tower, their first tower of the game for themselves.
There's a lot of turrets still available on the side of Goldcoin United. They're able to start evening up these objectives. They can pull that gold lead a little bit closer. Not quite enough to be able to equalize, but we talk about GCU being potentially the better late game team fighting team, as well as, well, in terms of champions, as well as the fact as players and as a team, they seem to do that better. So any kind of objectives they can grab up go a long way to helping them back into this game. Lyra, not quite the tankiest Lee Sin quite yet, getting that early Hex Drinker to try and survive through the Phoenix burst, as well as the fact that Solo on the Rumble, another magic damage dealing champion. A little late on his armor pickups, makes it a little bit harder to do the Baron, but Team Envy have a lot of damage and a lot of turn-off potential as well. You have the potential Insect from Lyra, you have the long-range skill shot ultimate to lock people down out of Apollo, Hakuho as well. As soon as they start getting this deep vision down and baiting Baron, it's going to be a difficult time for GCU to really walk up and make sure that they're safe and not losing it.
I really have to credit Envy for their adaptation to focusing down on objectives. Not just the fact they've been able to push down more towers so far in between this game and the last one, but also their dragon control has been a lot better just in this series compared to the promotion tournament and their entire stint in the spring split of the North American LCS. Goldcoin United in game number 1 never really had a massive gold lead until towards the end stages of the game. They were going relatively even, if not slightly behind Envy, but their advantages came in the fact that they were stacking up the dragons and Envy was not. Even though there were ocean dragons in that game, they had sustainability. This time, Envy's denying that as a comeback mechanic. The equalizer gets used out by Solo here, but it's quickly flashed away by Ninja. They try to summon his spell for an ultimate. That's an ultimate, though, that was going to help in some of these objective fight situations.
All right, but with Envy postured around the bot lane, not going to quite need it for a dragon fight, most likely. Apollo pushing down the top lane during this time. A little caught out of position now. Santorin might be able to wrap around behind him here. Going to call off that pursuit, it looks like. And like you were saying, in game 1, GCU had great dragon control. They also smashed the top side of the map relatively early on. They had that 3K advantage early in the game, and then their bot lane, which was the same matchup, was actually winning at that time. So it was a lot easier for them to find openings to go for those dragons. Here, Envy, with the early game going heavily in their favor, doing a much better job being on top of those dragon timings and actually grabbing them. And we talk about how they're a little bit, more advantageous, being able to snowball, playing into Envy's style, where they're really, really happy seeing those versus something like a Cloud or Ocean Drake, which makes your macro decision-making the more important factor with those buffs.
Well, they got a Cloud Drake spawning in about a minute and a half, so they may not prioritize that one. However, a third dragon for the game can't hurt. Envy, though, have stalled out a teeny tiny bit. Gold Coin United were the last ones to get a tower on the top side of the map. All the outer towers are down in favor of Team Envy, and they did have Apollo kind of split pushing on the top side of the map. Got that one down relatively low before Gold Coin United threatened to collapse on him. So GCU, by buying their time so far, have been trying to establish a little bit more vision control, specifically over the top side of this map. They know the Baron is up on that side. They know that they can rotate between this top side around Baron vision, potentially swoop down and try to get that mid lane outer tower for themselves to open up more ability for vision control on the map. He's also been buying a little bit of time for Mashme to kind of sit back and farm himself back up. Now completed his Infinity Edge. He has 2-item Caitlyn, but he's still behind the 3-item Varus, as he completed a full Maul to Malmortius. So buying a little bit of time for Caitlyn to kind of get over the hump in her build for now.
They have stalled out a little bit, though, since they took down those outer ring of turrets. They're working on getting that Baron vision control right now, but Gold Coin United has done a good job thus far of keeping up a relatively defensive ring, making it so that they're able to track Lyra exactly what he's going for. They had that small pick-off attempt onto Ninja, who was able to escape. Flash still down from that one. And Envy working on that top side vision control. They can try and use that to grab that inner turret on the top side that you said, Apollo had already worked down pretty low. Maybe rotate from the mid lane up there, or they can fall back onto the Baron. Got a lot of options here for how they want to use this pressure on the top side.
Yeah, Team Envy definitely have the pressure in this game, definitely have the gold advantage. 6,000 for themselves. 6 kills to 4 as well, and the 2 Mountain Dragons with the Cloud Drake now spawning. Ping's going down from Envy side over towards the Baron. That top lane tower also extremely, extremely low in the HP department. All of Envy, save for Seraph, grouped up on the top side of the map. The Renekton split push not yielding the results that they quite want it to. However, that is because Solo's Rumble still at a decent point in this game. So Mad Life trying to get some vision down will wander a little bit too far into the forest. Gets taken down by some Roots and a Lee Sin as Hakuo gets the kill.
Mad Life on solo warding duty there. All too easily caught out of position. Mash baits out the ultimate from Ninja there. Easily Caitlyn netting out of that shockwave. And a tool down for Envy, but they do get the pick off onto Mad Life. A lot harder for GCU to get vision control now, and Envy's going to take that opportunity to start off his Baron buff.
And they've also pulled Solo's Rumble away from the bottom side, so while this is going on, Seraph is pushing on the bottom. Baron already down below 3,000 HP. There's no vision for GCU. By the time Santorin even gets to the backside of the pit, it's already gone down in Envy's favor.
Both teams over the course of the series showing a little bit of lackadaisical vision control. Now Seraph
again aggressive, goes and slices and dices and flashes way in the mid lane. You're caught on the Phoenix, and it's going to be Apollo picking up a kill.
Nice teleport in there by Seraph, cutting off the backside of GCU, who are late checking that Baron buff. Was a little bit far forward, almost turned around onto, but Apollo lands the CC, letting them finish off Phoenix. They're going to grab this Cloud Drake now. And they got the Baron buff. Going to see how much they're going to be able to grab with it.
It's a classic engagement from the Challenger series. You say, you don't have a lot of engagement tools. What are you going to do? Flash Renekton stun? Well, after this teleport in, exactly what Seraph does. He gets trapped up, slice, flash, dice, stun.
Right, and you saw how GCU was pushed up into that river there. The minion wave giving him the angle for that teleport. Able to hold Phoenix down long enough for the rest of his team to get in range to collapse onto that. And yeah, like we said, GCU being a little lazy with contesting that Baron. It is scary to walk up into a 4v5, but you need to do it, because otherwise you give that Baron away for free. After he got picked, you saw the team kind of hovering extremely far back, not respecting the double mountain extra damage, and you saw that right as Santorin was finally getting into range to potentially look at that Baron, it was already dead.
Now that Envy has the Baron buff on them, it's going to be the base cracker. They've taken the top lane inner tower, bottom lane inner tower. Seraph is already pressuring down on. Meanwhile, Ninja is in the mid lane, putting pressure on that mid lane inner tower. So this inner ring of towers is now looking to be the target from Envy all across the map. Lyra's joined up with Ninja in the mid lane. So that's going to be a 5th tower now falling down. Would not be surprised to see some some rotations towards the bottom lane because Sarah's got that one pushing up already.
Envy going for all 3 lanes at the same time here. They have no teleport available. GCU still does, so they need to be a little careful about a potential force coming in from GCU, but they are extremely far ahead. And they're moving around the map to make sure that they get to these turrets as a team. No teleports coming in from GCU. They're stuck in their own base.
Envy with Baron buff looks way better than Envy without Baron buff when you get to this point.
I would hope a team looks better with Baron buff than without.
I mean, it just kind of seems like once Envy gets the Baron buff, they make the smart map movements. They know how to push up these lanes. They know how to go and pretty much match where the minion's going to be pressuring up. They've had this large gold advantage for a while, but they were stalling out in the mid game. But they get one catch on the Mad Life, they transition into a Baron, and all of a sudden it seems like the rotational play just falls into place.
I mean, it's definitely, like we said before, much easier to play the game out after you get that Baron. The hard part is getting the vision control and getting the pick on the bait. And then what you do after the bait, if the enemy team's going to walk up, do you turn off and risk, getting nothing out of it, or do you continue forcing onto the Baron and risk a steal attempt? Those are the kind of tough decisions that really are the things that make teams start floundering in the late game. Once they have the Baron buff, it's usually much easier to play out from there. And especially when the enemy team is not even being that aggressive in their contest, it's a lot easier because you don't even have to decide between turning or staying on the Baron. You just finish it.
Envy not getting over aggressive as their Baron buff is wearing out. They've taken all 3 inner towers. Have not actually cracked an inhibitor tower yet, but are not over aggressing to try to do so. Continue just kind of keep up the Sarah split push and everybody else farming up their individual lanes. Lots of itemization has come in across the board. The Leandries, the Abyssal Scepter, the Morello Namicon, an additional needlessly large rod has now become a Luden's Echo for Ninja as he just wound up recalling. Apollo's going to wind up going back to finish off the itemization for a favorite of his on this Varus, which is the Ginsu's Rage Blade, going for a 4th item Ginsu's this game.
Yeah, he's got a little different look on the Varus and some of the other people who have been playing it on the recent patches. And overall, Envy, good usage of their Baron buff. Knock down all the inner turrets. Sometimes your first Baron buff, you can't even think about ending the game with it. You need to win a massive team fight in order for that to happen. And if the other team decides to turtle out in their base, like we saw GCU doing, you don't want to risk getting over aggressive. You take those extra gold leads that are available through those inner turrets, and then you know that you have to force one more big play at this point in the game to really secure it. Most likely going to be a Baron. Nice steal there by Mad Life.
Mad
Life.
Life.
They're going to need to get one more Baron, essentially, or one more big team fight around a major objective in order to close this game out. And they're extremely far ahead, about a 12K gold advantage, but they're still that one play away from really ending it.
Yeah, well, they have 3 Drakes on their side, with an Elder Dragon spawning in about 2 minutes. So that could be the next objective they need, because that would be giving them a lot of extra combat power. And with how far ahead they are already, forcing a fight around GCU's base could just be as deadly as the game being over. Now Envy continue to pressure up every single lane on the map. Seraph on the bottom side, Ninja in the middle. Duo lane from their side of Apollo and Hako on the top. And Lyra bouncing between absolutely everybody. Has gone and sold his Boots of Mobility on this last back instead going for his Merc Treads. The early game advantage from the Boots of Mobility no longer being in effect. Instead just wants to have the extra magic resistance against this double AP threat from GCU. And the tenacity is Ninja getting caught out on a rotation towards the bottom side here. Command Shockwave is used, but it got Zanya's Hourglass up by Solo. Phoenix going to get caught out in the Stranglethorns, flashes way to the other side, still gets knocked up, but does not wind up going down.
Nice small little catch onto GCU there, chunking out a bunch of Envy. Envy not going to back away quite yet, though. Ninja continues to walk up aggressively. GCU having a hard time holding off this 2-man push in the bot lane.
Yeah, Seraph and Ninja now, they are grouped up on this bottom side. Hard pressing against that bottom lane inhibitor tower from the side of Gold Coin United, who pretty much just been ping-ponged back and forth across their own base at this point in time. Haven't left it for quite some time. Only have a couple of wards on the bottom side jungle areas. They have to be a little bit careful about going forward from this point on. But Envy, Baron's going to be up in a minute. Elder Dragon's going to be up in 30 seconds. All they have to do is just continue to deny that vision. As you mentioned, 1 or 2 of those objectives could be the one they need to end the game.
You see GCU with that slight breathing room that they made for themselves in that skirmish, trying to go down and get some vision on this Elder Dragon that's going to be spawning in 20 seconds. Does not look like they want to give this one away for free. We see them grouping up around the mid lane now. Looks like they're going to look for a fight in order to try and come back into this game.
They might be looking for a flank, though. Is behind where Gold Coin United has been placing vision. The GCU is going to be securing their own red buff, backing away as a unit to make sure that Lee Sin, any sneaky attempt from Lyra, will not catch anybody out of position. Envy with that Elder Dragon now spawned on the map will be making their way down towards that area to try to clear the vision out. Chain of Corruption actually used there by Apollo Does not connect on the Mad Life, just uses the Inspire Shield, runs away.
That's one major ability down on the side of Envy. Might make this Elder Dragon fight a little bit more difficult for them now. They also have decent vision. They're aware of where Lyra was now. Envy pushes in that mid-minion wave, trying to get mid-control before starting this Baron off. They're also hoping to find another pick-off attempt as Lyra starts soloing away the Elder Dragon.
Seraph's going to go join his jungler on the Elder Dragon. The rest of Envy baiting in this brush of the control ward, poking their heads out, making GCU try to back away. But GCU, Baron is spawned on the map. Elder Dragon's still about 5,000 HP. They're rushing down for the Baron.
Yeah, they're going to try and start this one off. Envy not in the best position to contest. It's going to be a three-man group up.
Well, this
trying
is
to stop it.
Elder Dragon has just died, but Baron's at 3,000 HP. This command Shockwave's going to wind up picking up Phoenix. He tried to flash away from that one, but GCU will take the Baron down, but Solo's going to pay with his life. GCU are on full retreat, but they're running back towards Envy's base. Mash is going to try to get out with the empowered Baron recall, but he gets stopped by Ninja. Santorin winds up going down to Seraph. It's a double kill for Renekton. Make that a triple. It's an ace.
It is a clean ace for Envy there. They lose the Baron buff, but they finish off the Elder Dragon. Seraph TP's in to join up and contest in the 4v5 situation, and a huge shockwave by Ninja blows up Phoenix before he's able to do anything about it. 30 seconds before anyone respawns. They have a minion wave in the bot lane. Turret's already down. They're working on the inhibitor. Might be game.
20 seconds left on Phoenix and 25 seconds left on Santorin, and Solo means that with this inhibitor going down and everybody from Envy still alive, it's going to be Envy that jumps out to a 2-1 series lead here in the promotion tournament. Only one game back from keeping their spot in the LCS.
Huge game 3, often considered one of the most important matches to take in the series. They're up 2-1 now off the back of a big performance from Lyra and a bounce-back game from their bot lane. Second one in a row that they've been playing well compared to how they played that matchup the first time around. Ninja and Seraph also doing pretty well, holding their own in their lanes, and that looked like a decent start for GCU. They were not actually able to turn it into anything. That first blood coming in right away onto Santorin put them at such a deficit. Really hurt their ability to play that early game out.
Yeah, Santorin kind of seemed like he was a little non-existent that game. After dying to first blood from the failed invade, tried to get things going during the lane phase, tried to get a couple of ganks off with the Graves, but he doesn't pack any CC himself, packs a lot of damage, wasn't really able to lock anybody down. 1, 2, and 1 for Santorin, relatively quiet, but that bottom lane from Envy, as you mentioned, stepping up. They got a little bit of pressure from Lyra. That's all they needed to get those advantages over Mash and Mad Life in the same matchup that was in game number 1. But instead of falling behind and losing that game, they end as a combined total of 5-0-7 as a bottom lane.
And what happened to Phoenix as well? This was supposed to be one of the star players for GCU. It was supposed to be the Lyra versus Phoenix show. Phoenix popping off in the early game. Game 1, there's a lot of trade kills. Game 2, basically a non-factor. And game 3, once again, he was able to get a kill on the Ninja, was traded back on because Ninja pulled him under the turret.
Yeah, Ninja definitely been holding his own against Phoenix, which is something we did not expect here. And he's been doing it on a multitude of different champions. He did it on the Talon, did it once on his own Syndra pickup, and has now done it on the Orianna. So these are champions that we had question marks for Ninja with his champion pool or his mastery on certain champions, and he's doing okay. He's doing fine. That's all he needs to do.
I mean, this is exactly what you want out of Ninja. Go mostly even in the laning phase. Lyra gets you the advantage, and then from there, your team should be able to get enough of a gold lead that you can close it out.
All right, so for more on that win from Envy, let's send it on over to the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Let's talk about the fact that, hey, Envy really starting to step up here. Another win now, 2 in a row, starting to really come online.
Yeah, they really are. And once again, I mean, we keep talking about him, but Lyra, he had another great game. I think partly that's kind of gifted over to him by Santorin, but he made a big difference across the whole map.
Yeah, and this is really becoming a serious thing for me where Santorin seems to have this panic thing kind of set in whenever he does see Lyra. Last game, it was a couple of the counter ganks, and he gets a little shaky in the playing out the skirmishes, and this time around, Azalea wanted to go over the magnificent level 1.
Yeah, and I mean, basically, the ward getting placed over from GCU tips off Envy. Their mid laner can come up first. Santorin is tanking the Raptors. He has to actually smite for the heal because he's very low, and then flashing into the wall, giving over a free first blood, losing your smite, and then dying there, and then Lyra is able to come bot lane. You remember last game, they actually lost this bot lane pretty hard, but because there's a triple summoner forced by this early Moby Boots Lee Sin, he gets down there, they can win that lane, and then he's up on top side against Kobe.
And here we go. Seraph gonna set him up with the Sun, so an easy Q land for the beginning. and start to get that Renekton right off to another good start.
I think he's just playing super impressive League of Legends. I think that he made the Moby Boots pay off, and Moby Boots to me is always an interesting choice because there's that investment, right? It's risk versus reward. If you buy this and you don't make the ganks happen, you are kind of hurting yourself because Santorin actually ended up a level or a level and a half above him because he was just hard farming after giving up that kill, whereas Lyra was trying to affect the map, and had that not paid off, it could have looked bad.
Exactly. I mean, you really need to take advantage of opportunities with mobility boots, and he did just that.
Yeah, so speaking of Lyra kind of giving opportunities and the rest of the team taking advantage, I want to talk about what's happened in the mid lane here because Ninja, I think both a beneficiary, but also playing better himself. I asked for some stats about how he was doing when these teams met on Friday. Ninja was losing. He was down gold pretty much every single game, on average down 341 every single game. And now here on day 3, he's averaging up in gold. And again, you can say, yes, this is Lyra doing better and the jungle doing well, but still, in his one-on-one versus Phoenix, it is going better today.
He's just objectively playing better, I think. Even in a tough matchup like the Ori into the Syndra, he still did well.
Yeah, and it's partly on Phoenix as well. One of the things we're banking on for Gold Corn United is that Phoenix was going to have some carry performances, and he was outstanding yesterday. However, we haven't seen those glimpses quite yet from him in the series, and they need to turn it on right now because one game left.
I mean, it's definitely tough. We talked about like kind of the ways to win for either of these teams, and to me, it was always going to be who steps up more. Is it Lyra or is it Phoenix? They're the big stars of the show, and you know, while it's not necessarily fair to put the pressure on them, that's the reality. When you're the best player, you have to put up the best performance. And,
yeah, absolutely.
And Phoenix, he seemed a bit shaken up after their loss against Team Liquid. Understandably so. He put in an incredible series overall and lost in the 5th game. I think that can be pretty draining, and maybe it's taxing him here today.
And it seems like the case that it is right now. We'll see if Phoenix does step up and if the rest of the team can rally around that. But for now, Envy are only one game away from keeping their spot in the NALCS. So join us back here after the break to see if GCU can bounce back or if it's going to close out here. Stay tuned.
Silver Scrapes?
Not yet.
Lyra comes around the opposite side. Ooh, a failed flash from Santorin's gonna seal the deal on his death.
Seraph's still on the backside.
Yep, uses the Unleashed power onto Seraph. It's full HP Renekton will not go down. Meanwhile, bottom side, Haku and Apollo utilizing that pushing pressure.
Vision control. Now Seraph.
Again, aggressive. Goes and slices and dices and flashes way in the mid lane. It's caught on the Phoenix, and it's gonna be Apollo picking up a kill.
Okay, slowly. Great. Rumble. Kill them all. I go. Chase.
Go in the game.
Okay. I go in. Hey, right here. Okay, with this. I go in.
Let's go bottom.
Nice.